Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cohen back here again today with another video. In this video, I want to talk about the Boston Celtics. They're a team that I haven't talked about much recently. Last time I made a video focusing particularly on them is about a month ago, and since then a lot's changed with this roster, particularly recently with the trade deadline coming and going, them picking up Evan Fournier for just a couple second round picks, a great acquisition in my eyes, and the fact that the Celtics are kind of back on the upswing. Last time I made a video about them, I believe the video was titled "The Celtics Are Trending the Wrong Way," and I talked about what's going wrong for them, why can't they win games, what things need to be changed, and ultimately they have made some adjustments that have them playing better basketball. And I want to talk about what those adjustments are and how I think the Celtics need to keep playing if they want to keep finding this success, particularly when we talk about the roles of their top six guys: Tatum, Brown, Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Evan Fournier, Robert Williams. Those six guys are the most important players on the Celtics team, and they each have a particular role that they've been playing more so recently with the passing of the trade deadline, the addition of Robert Williams to the starting lineup. The Celtics are playing really good basketball, and I think they finally found a formula to keep winning games. And I want to talk about why, if they keep finding that or keep utilizing this formula, ultimately, I think Boston can end up getting that 4 seed and still be a force in the Eastern Conference when it comes playoff time. So leave a like, leave a subscribe if you like NBA content. Pretty much things every single day, sometimes twice a day if I'm feeling it. Post-game recaps, videos talking about teams like this. So let me know what you want to see in the comments below. And yeah, feel free to hang out for a while. So like I said, the Boston Celtics have been playing better recently. Their last game was yesterday against the Charlotte Hornets, who, despite not having Gordon Hayward and LaMelo Ball, are still a very good basketball team. They play super competitively every single night, and the Celtics blew them out by 30 points. It wasn't even close, and it's because their players are playing in more set roles in the way that I felt like they should have been playing all season, and I'm going to talk about what those roles are. So to start off, I'm going to start from the top. Their best player is Jason Tatum. I don't think anyone's going to argue that, and maybe some people who hate Jason Tatum for some reason will argue that, but Jason Tatum should be universally considered their best player. He is the 1A on this team, and the 1B is Jaylen Brown. They are the two best players on this team. Every single night, you need Tatum and Brown to take the most shots. Tatum should be taking the most, Brown the second most. Some nights they can switch back and forth if one player has the hot hand, but normally these two should be taking the most shots every single night. Both of them need to be getting around 25, 23-ish points per game for this team to be most successful, and you have to give them the shots to get into rhythm for that to happen. They are your offensive players, and they both play well on the defensive side of the ball, so they kind of just do a little bit of everything, but offensively, they have to be the focal point. And that brings us to Kemba Walker, a guy who signed with the Celtics a couple seasons ago, or in a couple off seasons ago, excuse me, and he's a guy that was brought in to kind of be that offensive player for this team as Tatum and Brown developed. The problem is, though, Tatum and Brown have passed him. Last season, I believe Tatum had already passed him. This season, Brown has definitely passed him as well, with Tatum way beyond him at this point offensively. And I don't think Kemba has quite adjusted yet, but in the last couple games, he's been doing what I think he should do. He's been playmaking. That is Kemba Walker's role on this team and what it should be going forward. Kemba Walker still has a lot of offensive potential. He still has that really lethal one dribble pull up mid range from the 3-point line. He can still shoot threes decently well. He still gets to the foul line. He can draw contact and kind of finish around defenders. He's still a super talented offensive player, but he's not as quick as he once was. We're starting to witness the fall off of Kemba Walker, which sucks. I'm a huge Kemba Walker fan, if you did not know. Both my parents went to UConn, and so I have a lot of love for Kemba Walker. Loved watching him play in Charlotte, so I was happy when he went to Boston, getting an opportunity to play some more winning basketball, with Charlotte struggling for so many years, just making one playoff series in his time as a Hornet. I was excited to see him here, and he just hasn't quite lived up to the hype. It seems like the Celtics have a history of that, getting Kyrie Irving not being as good as he was on Cleveland, and definitely not as good as he was or is now on Brooklyn. For some reason, that has also happened to Kemba Walker, and I think it's because Tatum and Brown have developed so quickly offensively that Kemba Walker's kind of been left out in the dust. He is behind them offensively now, and he now has to adjust to becoming the playmaker. Like I said, he can still take those shots if he finds them, but he needs to more so take what comes to him and less so focus on getting his own shot. He needs to get the ball to Tatum, Brown, Fournier if he's in there with him, get the ball to Robert Williams on the block, throw Robert Williams lobs. If he gets a mismatch in the paint, let him go to work. You have to get the ball to these guys and help them play to their advantages. And when you get an opportunity, take it. Because if you start playmaking more, that's going to open up more opportunities, because they're going to start to not sag off. They're not going to forget about Kemba Walker. We know who Kemba Walker is. We know how capable he is. But they're going to have to focus more attention on Tatum, Brown, Fournier. If these are guys that you're getting the ball to, less so than you, which then opens up the game a little bit more for you. And ultimately, I think that when Kemba Walker is a playmaker, that is when the Celtics are at their best. If Kemba Walker gets a hot hand one night, sure, go ahead, let him take some shots. There's probably still going to be some nights where Kemba Walker does end up scoring the most points for you, but ultimately, most nights he should probably be getting the third most shots behind Tatum and Brown. That then brings us to Marcus Smart, a guy who I believe is super impactful and a really good player, but he's got to play the role that he needs to play, and that role is to take shots when they're given to you, take open shots, defend the hell out of the ball, and play make alongside Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart is a really good playmaking tandem, and Smart, unfortunately, sometimes focuses too much on the offensive side of the ball, I think, in terms of scoring. Marcus Smart, he is a capable scorer. We've seen that, averaging around 13 points per game the past couple seasons. He's become a decent three-point shooter over the last couple years. Some might even say good with the way that he's shot at some points. The problem is his inconsistencies, and there are some nights where Marcus Smart can shoot you out of a game, and he is way too good of a player in other aspects of his game to be shooting you out of a game. When he has those inconsistent nights, and just really nights in general, he should be playmaking with the ball in his hands. He should be playing lockdown defense like he typically can, grabbing rebounds, and if you get a wide open shot, take it. Marcus Smart can knock those shots down. I'm not saying he doesn't have to ever shoot, but the other night against the Hornets, he shot 4 of 8 from the field, and 7 of those shots were threes. He shot 4 of 7 from 3. That's what he should be doing. He can knock down that three-point shot. He should be given wide open three-point looks and just knocking them down. And when he is in instead of Kemba Walker, handle the ball, be that playmaker. If you see an open lane to the basket, take it. Run out in those transition opportunities if you get a steal or a block, but otherwise, let guys get you the ball. Don't focus on making your own shot attempts. Focus on letting them get you shot attempts, and for you, get other guys involved as well. Evan Fournier, he needs to just cook off the bench. When Evan Fournier is in, get the ball in your hands and just make things happen. He is a dynamic scorer, and he's really good. An underrated scorer, I think, by a lot of people, averaging around 20 points per game, and he's shown a lot of potential in the last couple games of his Celtics career. That first game where did not score a single point was not a good showing for him, but since then he's been much better, scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter a couple games ago. Last night, scoring a bunch of points. Evan Fournier can score in buckets. He can just get you buckets on the court, and that's what he needs to do. If there are times where he's in with like a Kemba or a Smart, kind of back off a little bit. Maybe play a little bit more in the corner, more in the wing. Let them get you some shot opportunities, driving kicks out to you, or even crash as they attack so that they could dish it off to you and get the easy basket on the cut. But overall, you just need to score. That's what you have to do, and that's what the Celtics team has been missing most of this season. When they were really struggling earlier in the year, it just felt like when their bench came in, they could not put up points. If Tatum and Brown weren't out there, they weren't putting up points. Fournier fixes that issue. Great acquisition by Danny Ainge, and I think one that really went under the radar. And if Fournier is able to continue scoring the way he has the last few games, the Celtics team, their ceiling raises tremendously. And that also brings us to Robert Williams. If you've watched my videos, if you watched that video about the Celtics from about a month ago, I talked about Robert Williams. Robert Williams should have been the starting center on this team for a while now, and they are finally starting him. In his 5 games that he started, in which the Celtics are 4-1, he's averaging 11.8 points per game, 10 rebounds, 4.6 assists, 1.4 steals, 2.6 blocks. And he had a game where he had a perfect shooting night with 20 points. Robert Williams is really good, and he's still young. This is your chance to get Robert Williams growing and developing alongside these really talented players. He doesn't even have to make a ton of stuff happen. He just has to let the game come to him. Be a force on the defensive end of the ball. Playmake, he's a really underrated playmaker. Like I just said, 4.6 assists per game is nothing to scoff at. That's a really high total, especially for a center when you have guys like I mentioned, Kemba, Smart, Tatum Brown, all people who are capable passers on this team, even to Peyton Pritchard as well. Robert Williams is a lot of nights one of their better playmakers. He's just capable of doing so much, and his role in this team should be a lot similar, or very similar to the role that Al Horford played on this team a couple seasons ago before leaving for Philly and ultimately heading to OKC. Al Horford is a Swiss Army knife type player. That is the same thing that Robert Williams can do, except Robert Williams is more athletic, and that's something that the Celtics have really been lacking. It gives the Celtics a lob threat. It gives them a better shot blocker than Al Horford was. Given Al Horford is still a really good player, really good defensive player, having that athleticism and that ability to block shots is something that the Celtics have been desperate for, and that's what Robert Williams can bring to the table. He can score, like I just mentioned, 11.8 points per game. He's athletic, so he gets more rebounds than any other center on this team is going to get. 4.6 assists. Matt already talked about his playmaking. Also, his ability to get in the passing lanes. 1.5 steals is a lot of steals, especially for a center. He's just really good. He does everything well, and he should continue to be the starter for the Celtics long term. I don't know why this wasn't the decision made sooner, but I'm glad that they're finally doing that. Those are their 6 guys. Those 6 guys, if they play all of those roles that I just talked about, this Celtics team ceiling rises a lot. And ultimately, I think if they keep playing like that, they can reach the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference and ultimately still make noise. If you look at a playoff rotation, most of the times teams only run about 8 guys. And if you have a playoff rotation of those 6 guys alongside with Peyton Pritchard and Tristan Thompson, that's a really good rotation. You have Kemba, Smart, Brown, Tatum, Robert Williams, Evan Fournier, Peyton Pritchard, Tristan Thompson. That's a really solid 8 guys when you go into the playoffs. It's very versatile. You have Robert Williams who can block shots. You have Tristan Thompson who has that experience. You have Peyton Pritchard as a solid guard off the bench. Really great draft pick, by the way, for the Celtics. Not talked about enough. We've already talked about Tatum and Brown. We've seen what they're able to do in the playoffs. Kemba, playmake for you. If he gets hot, he gets hot. Smart, lock up some guys. You need guys who can play that hard-nosed defense in the playoffs when things get physical. Fournier gets you buckets. Robert Williams, we talked about him. I feel like the Celtics team has way more potential than they've shown this season. I think they're finally realizing what that is and finding the roles they have to play. And I think that in large part goes to Brad Stevens, who's finally optimizing the talent. There have been a lot of complaints about Brad Stevens over the course of the season, but I feel like right now he's kind of starting to get it together. I could say all of this and then the Celtics could go on a massive losing streak because that's just kind of the way that the Celtics have gone this season. But ultimately, I think they're figuring it out, and I think they found a formula to win. Additionally, you could add situational guys, a Romeo Langford who just returned from not existing last game. He had some great minutes. He had a crazy athletic block. He has a lot of defensive potential, and I think you could bring him in situationally also in the playoffs and just in games in general. You kind of want to test out him through the regular season to see if he can crack that playoff rotation, but I think he has potential as a versatile defender, even though that wasn't really his MO coming into the NBA. But he has the length and he has the tools to be a solid defender for you on the wing. Grant Williams has shown potential at times, although recently he hasn't been quite as good, even though Brad Stevens insists on playing him a lot. But Grant Williams probably still has some benefits in certain situations. You have guys who can shoot in Nesmith, Cornette, and Wagner. You could always use three-point shooting, especially if you need to make a comeback or if at the end of the game you need a guy to knock down a three-point shot. Robert Williams, unlike Al Horford, doesn't quite have that three-point shot yet, and so adding a guy like a Cornette or a Wagner into the lineup in those clutch time moments where you need someone to do that adds a lot of versatility to your team and gives you a lot of situational flexibility. So, all this to say, the Boston Celtics are not dead in the water. I think they've got a lot of potential with this team. I think Fournier was a great pickup. Adding Robert Williams, adding Brown, Kemba, Smart, Jason Tatum, figure out their roles on the team, and I think things are finally going to start clicking. Like I said, I could say this, and the Celtics could just fall off a cliff. I'm hoping they don't because I do like this team and I like watching them play, and it's way more fun when more teams are competitive. So let me know what you thought about all of that with the Boston Celtics. Let me know where you think they end up in the East. Do they still have the opportunity to make noise? Is Robert Williams the truth? Is he their guy, the center they've been looking for years? Let me know all that and more in the comment section below. Drop a subscribe, drop a like if you like this video, and I will see you guys later. Everyone, sit back.